And I guess kind of our main philosophy is that everybody has a great idea to share. So as we go through tonight, be thinking about what your great idea or what your specialty is, because we would really love to have just a whole variety of things. And the thing that is really cool is the arts liaison at the State Department of Ed got a hold of this, thought it was a really great idea, and they're interested in giving us some help and support. So after these first two sessions, I'm actually going to be working with her. We're going to move over to Zoom. She's got some other resources that we can access as well. So if you have somebody who is maybe, not an Idaho educator, someone that we might even have to pay for a session, that's a possibility. So feel free to reach out with some ideas if you have them. The State Department was really excited to see that we're doing something. So with that, tonight's presenter is Casey Lindorfer from Capitol High School, and he's going to be presenting on Soundtrap. I am so grateful that he was my first volunteer and our guinea pig. So thank you, Casey.
So I want to start off and thank Megan for this idea and putting this all together. It takes a lot of work. So thank you for helping lead the way to make music education better in the state of Idaho. I also want to thank Derek Ganong and Matt Patterson. I ran a bunch of ideas past them, and they were very helpful in kind of me getting this ready to go. And then I also want to thank my students. You're going to hear some recordings of them that they put together this week and today to kind of show you how the application works. So my Soundtrap is a great way for teachers and students to create both music in the classroom and in the circumstance that is necessary to do distance learning from the safety of our own homes. There's not a great deal students need in additional supplies to be able to use this application, which makes this an effective platform for general school use. They also offer free training and tutorials for a more in-depth look at how to technically use the application. And their classes are actually really good. They have a certified, you can be certified in Soundtrap similar to the Google certification. And my goal tonight is to show some of the potential uses of the application in the music classroom and to hopefully give some simple solutions for both distance and in-person education that values your time. The first thing I really want to jump into is the cost. So this is not a free application. There is a free 30-day trial. And that trial is the premium educator version. So you can have as many students as you want using it during those first 30 days. After the first 30 days, there is a cost. So for 50 students, the cost is $250. And then after 50 students, it's kind of like buying shirts or other products in large quantities. The more you purchase, the less it is per student. So the more student seats that you end up purchasing, the overall cost goes up, but the individual cost per seat goes down and is less expensive. Now, in terms of where this application can actually be used, it can be used literally anywhere as long as you have internet. And part of why that happens is because it works on every platform. So you can use it on a computer, a tablet, on your cell phone, and that allows students to be able to work from home or the classroom or wherever they might be doing their schoolwork from. And I find that to be a huge plus of this application. In terms of student sign up and security, this is a pretty simple product to get students signed up on. And from my experience so far, it seems to be pretty secure in terms of how they set up the product itself. So when it comes to getting students signed up on the website, this is kind of what your main page is going to look like once you have a subscription. And you can go to, if you want to add people, you simply go to My Groups. And you can either create a group or you can join a group. So I already have a group for my high school band here, the Capitol Band. So So I'm just going to click on that one for now. Then in this, I can add more users. So I'm going to click on this Add User tab. Now here, there are a couple different ways that you can actually add users into Soundtrap. So if you have a CSV file, so that's like a Excel file, you can do it that way if it has emails in it. You can use your Google Suite directory if you have your school district uses Canvas or Google Classroom. I personally use Google Classroom, so I'm going to click on my Google Classroom tab, and then I'm going to click the next, and then it brings you to where you choose an account, and then you select. I'm going to select my teacher account at that point, and then it takes you right to your classes in Google Classroom. So if I select my band class, this is linked to my Google Classroom. Here are all the students that are currently signed up in my band Google Classroom. And from there, I can simply import them. And then they're added to Soundtrap. And here it says that these were already imported to this account because I did this earlier this week. But otherwise it'll say, okay, that they were imported to the program. If you don't have any of these different options, you can use a link for sign up or a code. So those are also some other options for how to actually sign students up for the website. So once you have them invited and put into a group, they can be added to any projects that you are working on. And I'll go more into how to make projects in a moment. But once you have a project, it's going to take a second to load. You can simply click this modify this folder. And if you scroll down, you can invite. And this will have your students that are already in Soundtrap. It'll show them, and you can actually invite them to work on specific projects that you're working on. So most of them have already been invited, but say I want to invite the student, I can click invite, and then I can invite Nathan to that project if I wanted to. Now, in terms of the education side and the security side of Soundtrap, it uses something called a walled garden. And what that is when you develop a website that students can talk to each other, but they can't talk to the outside world. So these students will not have the ability to work with people outside of your specific group or your specific class. If they wanted to work outside of your class, they'd have to use a separate email address to sign up for a new account on Soundtrap. They can't use the email address that will be used for the account with your class, which that helps provide this kind of safety and security that students won't be kind of talking with people they don't know, maybe that they shouldn't be talking to, as the internet is very vast. Now let's get into kind of how to create ensembles and the purposes and variety that you can have with ensembles. So if you want to create something, you can just simply click this Enter Studio. I'm going to start one right now that is, oh, sorry, let me share the right tab. So from here, to start a project or a song for a group, you can simply click Enter Studio. And what that'll do is that will pull up a blank empty studio in your Soundtrap. And I have a couple tabs open right now, so it's going to take a moment to load. But saying that this is loaded, this is what it will actually end up looking like once you have kind of flushed it all out. So you can have a bunch of different students, and students will add tracks as they go. So if a student wants to put in a track, they simply click this add new track, and then they can, depending on what they want to record, they can add, say I want to do a voice or a microphone. And here you can choose what microphone. So if you have a external microphone that you plug into your computer, it will show up here, but I'm just going to I've been using the internal computer microphone. Then at that point, in order to set volumes, they will need to click this button here. And what that does is it actually creates a test. So if I click start the test, then I end up having to talk as loud as I'm going to talk or sing or do something, and that sets the top volume level, which prevents clipping and distortion, as it says there, which actually really helps the sound in terms of if you're trying to get decent sound quality. Now, when it comes to the purposes kind of the ensemble, it can be used for class playback so students can hear what they're currently doing, or you could use it to actually create a virtual concert. With students being able to record anywhere, they can literally record their part from home on whatever device they want to, which I think that's great for distance learning, but it also works really well if your school, which I feel like many of our schools will be doing this, are going to be going between in-person learning and distance learning back and forth. It allows them to have the flexibility to work from wherever they are basically stationed, and gives you the flexibility not to have to worry about, am I going to be able to see my students on a day-to-day basis? When it comes to actually recording and putting music into this application, there's a couple different ways that you can coordinate how students will put music in. So the example that I used today, Appalachian Morning, with my students, has a bunch of tempo changes with a slower piece. So what I did is I got a recording of the piece and I put it into this first track. So that way students could actually hear it while they were playing. And I had students click this play button, and it would go along and play the recording, and they would practice playing with it and listening to it. Then after a couple times of that, they would click this record button, and they would actually record with this playing in the background. So they would plug headphones in and put their headphones, and so they could hear it in their ears, but the computer wouldn't pick it up. Now, if there's not very many tempo changes and you don't want them to be listening necessarily to a recording as they play along, you could just have them play along with a metronome. And that way there's a steady tempo going. Or that's going to work better for your larger groups from what I've seen. And then in like a jazz group or a smaller ensemble, you could simply have the drum set player record first, or you could have like an ensemble member whose part is very consistent and maybe like a motor record first. Then everyone else can record after that person to create the ensemble. Now, students can record as many times as they need to. So depending on what you're going for, it can determine how you let students record. So if I wanted to really emulate a performance setting, what I might do is I might tell students you could only record the entire track. You can't break it up and go back and fix things. You can only play it once through and record it to try to simulate that performance aspect. If I was going for maybe like a product, like if I wanted to put out a recording, I could let students go back and fix individual parts of the recording. So that's what I did today. Since I didn't give them very much time to practice the music, I let them kind of chunk through and go back and fix things as they were playing. And then if you were looking at doing a virtual concert, you could take your file and you can actually export it to a bunch of different types of files. So I exported it to a MP3 file today, just to kind of see how that works. And I had so when I recorded today, had my students record, I gave them an hour and a half I gave them the music at the start of the hour and a half, and I logged them on to Soundtrap at the start of the hour and a half, just to kind of see how fast they were able to actually log in and make a product. And they were actually quite successful in doing this. One student forgot to use headphones, so you're going to hear kind of the original track recording a little bit in the background. But I'll play a little bit of this, and I think you'll be able to hear it faintly from my computer. And then, was that able to be heard at all? I can switch the audio if I need to.
No, we couldn't hear it at all.
Okay, I'll switch my audio really quick. So that's a short clip of what they did today. So that was a 3-minute piece, and it's like the first 30 seconds of them, and they got the music and they put it in there. So if you're rehearsing and recording, it really gives them the ability to kind of hear what they're doing and be able to make progress. And you can really hear what the students are doing individually as well. Now, when it comes to playing tests, I think this is a really good way that you can hear individual students. And it also helps you accomplish more tasks with a single recording from the students. So if I have students that are putting music into this application, then I can go, what I can do is I can click on this little headphone button and I can hear an individual student at a time playing, which I think is really beneficial. That way, normally when I've been doing playing tests the last couple of years, I've had students send in emails to me with their recordings, and it takes a lot of time to go through and try to click on all the emails, open everything up, download files that can't be played automatically. Whereas this, it will take a lot less time to be able to go through and listen to students and be able to give quality feedback because I will have a little bit more time to do so. There is some other ways that you can get individual student recordings. So if you want students to be able to just do something individually for you and not have to do something on a shared track with other students, you can do an assignment. So if I click on this application morning, like I want to create an assignment for the students, I can click create assignment. Then from here, it will actually connect it to my Google Classroom and automatically put it into the Google Classroom. Which I think that's a really powerful tool that I can simply choose my band class and I can create an assignment. And it will allow me to build out the assignment and give them a link really quickly. And I'll show you what that looks like in Google Classroom here. So after I create it in Google Classroom, depending on how you want to do it, it will have whatever instructions you want, and it will have a link to the actual Soundtrap where they can make their own individual track and recording. And what that will look like on the actual application is this. So you'll have individual recordings for each student all in the same place. So say I want to open up the student's recording. And I want to listen to that individual student play. I'm going to switch over my microphone really quick. So that gives me the ability to listen to an individual student on an individual recording. And as you could hear, the sound quality wasn't spectacular, that's one of the parts that I don't necessarily love. If you have a lot going on your computer, then the sound quality will drop a little bit. But once you close excess tabs or excess programs running on your computer, it will clean it up, the sound up. When it comes to non-ensemble work, there is some really applicable things for rhythm work, ear training, if you want to do jazz, improvisation, or composition. I find if you want students to be writing out rhythms or copy musical phrases or like singing and like listening to a track and then singing and playing that track back, it can be really, really effective. So in an example, this is a very short example, I have a little rhythm in the Soundtrap application. And from here, students could go in and they could listen to this as many times as they needed to, and they could either clap the rhythm back to me, or they could write out the rhythm, or they could speak the rhythm. There's a bunch of different options for how that could work. Then if, sorry, I lost my place. And you can do this for recognizing rhythms, you can do this for melodies, you can do this for harmonies, which I think that's very valuable for your young musicians if you're working on basic rhythms, for your music theory kids if you're working on like harmonic analyzation, or if you're training for an AP test and you want to be doing sight singing examples or ear training examples. So it's I think it's a powerful way to use this. Then when it comes to jazz, I find that it can be a really effective tool for working on improvisation in a couple of ways. So in this example, what I did was I have an Autumn Leaves backing track on the first track. And then I had a student, I asked him to record an improvised solo over it. And when we were getting ready for this, it was actually, I was able to chat with the student. So if you click this little collaboration tool, you can actually talk with the students in real time about what they're doing or what they need to be doing. So that way, you can get very fast feedback about how things are going. So in this, again, I have a backing track in the top part, and then I have the solo down below. I'll switch on the microphone so you can hear what this sounds like. So that is something that we were able to accomplish quite quickly. People are asking to get in. So that happened in a matter of 25 minutes, putting that together. So in terms of an effectiveness and an ease of use, I think this is really effective because you can literally add a student to an improv track. They can listen to it, they can play along, record. And then from here, students have the ability to listen and actually analyze their own solos and give themselves immediate feedback. And if they're listening to professionals and then they listen to themselves, they'll really be able to hear the difference. And I mean, you could do this with any level. So if you have elementary kids or middle school kids or high school kids, it allows them to hear what they're doing and they can make adjustments themselves, which I think is really important. Another thing you do for jazz improv is at any level, you could put either easy solo or put some solos in, and students could listen and they could transcribe based on what they're hearing. And they could either play it on their instrument or they could write it out or do both. And that's something that when it comes to music education is a really important tool to be able to listen and to be able to kind of understand and analyze what's happening and be able to apply it yourself. Now, when it comes to actually creating music of their own, Soundtrap has some cool and some effective ways that they can do this. So in the application, there are some ways that students that are not very advanced in music yet can be successful, and then students that are more advanced in working on the theory and composition stuff can be successful. So say you have someone that's in a music appreciation class where they don't have strong understanding of notation and theory knowledge to create music. There are pre-recorded loops that you can play and use to create music. So what this is say I want a drum beat. They have different drum beats that you can use and place into your Soundtrap application. So if I want to use this, then I can put in a drum beat that will give students a sense of rhythm. And then they could pick a bass beat to go along with it. So it kind of gives them the ability to create music on a very basic level. And then if you're working on like theory concepts, they could create like a rap that talks about music history or theory to work on kind of memorization of facts or key things that they need to know. Now, if you have students that are more advanced, what you can do, so say students that are like in a theory class, and they are working on actually applying theory for chord progressions and melody writing, you can use this piano keyboard tool. And in it, it allows them to actually play with a piano keyboard, which can be very helpful. But the thing I think is more effective with the music theory side of things is this piano roll. So this allows students to actually draw out what they want. So say they want to create a major chord, they could literally use the notes of the major chord to create a chord. And then they could go through and create a song while being able to see what keys on the piano they are using. In terms of theory application for students that are learning music theory, that is I think that's a very effective way to work on building those skills. And then if you kind of want to hear what kind of some possibilities are with this, Derek Ganong uses this in his classroom at Boise State for his music tech class. And he has a kind of a SoundCloud that he's downloaded music that students used Soundtrap to create music from. And I'll play a couple segments of these so you can kind of hear what they were able to do over the course of some time.
How we can get could somehow get this done and try and analyze and specify back which need creativity in engineering, in inventive work, psychology, anything you want. But it's fun doing that.
So those are some ways that they were actually able to use it in a college classroom, but that's something you could put at any level and just adjust what the goal of the outcome product is supposed to be. Then when it comes to kind of like your pre-designed lessons, Soundtrap has some really applicable things, and this is good for a lot of the younger kids as well. But in the Soundtrap application, they have a spot for lesson plans. And with these lesson plans, they have all subjects, but I'm going to pick music since that's our goal here. They have different grade levels They have different kind of compositional products that you can do. And these are actually like fully fleshed out lesson plans. So you don't have to necessarily recreate the wheel when it comes to what to do in Soundtrap. So I'm going to open up a couple of these lesson plans to kind of show you what they actually end up looking like. So here is one of them. So this is a 3-part lesson. So this is the first part of it. And it has like student outcomes. It has the activity and the project of what they're going to be doing. And then it has reflection questions. So then it goes into, so that's the first kind of lesson of the group of 3. Then the second one, they use the previous lesson to give their basis for this one. And again, it has your outcomes. It has the actual like line of activities of the projects, and it has some extended learning of what you could do outside of the class period. Then in the third lesson, they end up actually presenting what they created. And which is a nice thing because it actually has an end goal. But again, it's created for you. It has outcomes, it has the projects, it has extra learning, which there's times when we need something that we can just go find and it's not complicated. And this is a way that you can find something that's not complicated for your students. And then if you feel like you have a really good understanding of this, they actually accept submissions for the Soundtrap application, and you can actually submit lessons if you have something that you would like to share and give back to the music community. So just want to say thank you for showing up today. I really appreciate it. I hope that you were able to find some helpful information in this. I'll be available for the next 15 minutes roughly, and I can answer questions to the best of my ability for anyone that has some questions. And if you need to contact me, my email address is
Hey, Casey, it's Sandy.
Yeah.
Can you put that first slide up again that showed the cost? And on my question, on the free trial, does that include the 50 students or just the teacher?
So the free trial is unlimited students. So you can have as many students as you want on the free trial. So when I did my free trial last spring, I had the ability to add as many students as I wanted to. Then once your free trial is over, then you pay per student that you have. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and then the $250, did you say that was for the year or for 6 months? I missed that, I'm sorry.
That's for a full year.
Okay, great. All right,
So
thank you.
They have, I believe they have different packages, Robert, in terms of cost, but that'd be something you want to check with Soundtrap on. I did the individual classroom because I didn't believe our district, it wasn't something that I was going to ask our district to purchase for what we're already asking them to purchase. But they do have a couple of different packages, and you can contact them and ask for discounted rates and those kinds of things.
Great, thank you very much.
It looks like Alan Ellis was asking earlier about functionality with Edmodo. Do you know that at all, Casey?
I do not know if it has functionality with Edmodo, but I can look it up really quick.
I saw that it had Teams logos on there too. So if your district is Microsoft Teams, it looks like it will work with it.
It seemed like
it does work with Teams.
there was a Google Classroom and then Teams and then share a link. So that might have been useful for maybe any other platform.
Yeah, because you could put the link in another platform. If you create an assignment in a platform, you could just toss that link in there, and then they could go from there at that point.
Okay. I had another question, if I may.
Yeah.
Have you used Smart Music before and enough to compare the two?
I have used Smart Music a little bit. The power of Smart Music is the actual music that's there and the ability to play along with the music and see it. From what I understand, it does a good job of like grading playing tests and doing that kind of thing. But what I like about Soundtrap more is kind of the ability to record an entire band.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to find that with Smart Music. So while my goal is to have Smart Music and Soundtrap this year.
And use them both together?
Yeah, so I'll have the music in Smart Music where they can go and they can practice with the recording and practice with the music on the website. And then they can go into Soundtrap and record in Soundtrap to create our virtual concerts. And then I can grade the playing test from the Soundtrap as well.
Cool. Thank you.
Any other questions or?
You're getting questions in the chat.
Oh, do I not? I just scroll down. Okay. Is there a way to have classrooms in individual files? Yes. So if you have individual classes, I'm going to share this tab instead. So in my, let me go back here and take you through it. So in Soundtrap, you can create different groups. So what I will be doing, I'll kind of walk through. Next week, as I finish setting up everything, I'm going to create more groups. So I'll have a group for my jazz ensemble. I'll create the group, and then I'm going to create a group for my beginning guitar. And then I'll go through and I'll bit with all of my classes that I'll be using, all of my classes, since they'll all be using the application. Does that answer your question fully? Okay. You're welcome.
That was awesome, Casey. Thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome. That was, yeah, that was an adventure. First presentation, really. So hopefully it was informative and helpful. Yeah, so when I plan on using it this year, I plan for like smaller groups. I plan on doing a bunch of chamber music with my students. So I'm gonna set up chamber ensembles in Soundtrap so they can actually record their chamber music. And then we'll have a virtual chamber music concert this first semester where the kids all record and produce 1 or 2 chamber pieces, and then we live stream it or play it over a live stream for the parents and the community members to listen to. And then I'll be grading their playing test based off of that as well. So it's kind of a performance and playing test. Does that answer your question, Heather? Awesome. So what I'll be doing here, I will open one of these up. So if I click on this jazz example, if I go into that studio, it's going to take a second to load. But you can actually download it so I will download the recording from the studio. It's going to just give it a moment. So in here, once it finishes loading, you'll click on the file. Then it has an export, and then I'll export it to an MP3. Then from there, I will create an event with my band parents, basically, and like a public event, and I will play the recordings on the event. So kind of like I did here, I will share the audio from the computer and stream it out that way. But depending on like how you want to deal with rights and things like that, which that's something I'm looking into currently, you could also maybe do like a YouTube where you upload it to YouTube for a specific amount of time, or you put it on like a school website. But again, you'll want to check on rights for those types of activities. My students had a pretty fun time playing with it today as well, and working with it, because it actually becomes pretty collaborative, which I found, which was fun. Students that kind of struggled with technology, they were able to get help from other kids. And I feel like right now we're going to be lacking a lot of the community aspect, and that might help bring back some of that community aspect as they have to work together. Hopefully, that's one of the goals. You're welcome.